Howdy, my name is Kiersten and I'm a class of 2020 graduate from Texas A&M. And just like you, I was in the special education program. So congratulations, you have the best professors and classes that will set you up for success no matter what setting you end up teaching in. I started out in a resource and inclusion classroom at an elementary school that was kindergarten through fifth grade. And we split it up where my partner teacher taught all of the math and I taught ELA. So I was working with grades kindergarten all the way through fifth grade. I was mostly working with students who had goals in writing and reading, specifically in decoding and comprehension. And the way resource and inclusion works is there are two components to the job. There's the inclusion side and the resource side. So for inclusion, that was when I got to go into the classroom and work with the student one-on-one or in a small group for either work completion or for a little mini lesson. So sometimes the student just needed support to get their work done. Maybe if they were doing writing and they didn't know what to write about, I would help them think of an idea or provide accommodations for them. Other times, maybe if the teacher was teaching a small group, I would pull that student and some other students for a little mini lesson. And what I love about inclusion is that's the time where you get to really meet students where they're at with what they need right then and there. I got to intervene in their day-to-day education without having to pull them out of their class. So of course, inclusion is the least restrictive environment, which can be a really great way to serve a lot of students. And then for students who required more individualized education or needed to be in a separate setting, we would pull for resource supports. So typically I would have small groups of either one student up to maybe 5 students who would get pulled out of their class to come to my classroom and work specifically on the skills and goals that they needed to work on. Like I said, I was mostly working with decoding goals, fluency, comprehension, writing. And what I loved about that was for students who maybe were reading on a first grade level in fourth grade, they got to actually receive curriculum that met them at their level, whereas a general education teacher would not have had the time in their curriculum to be able to provide that. So resource was a really great way to help close gaps for students who need that extra support or need that excessive repetition. Sometimes I would provide support for social skills, but the way my campus worked was we had another teacher who did all of the social skills goals. I know that at my current campus, the resource teacher does both academics and social skills, so it just depends on your campus. But what I love about resource is you can be an expert in all of the things, math, ELA, social skills, it all comes into play. We also would provide support to, or kind of bridge the gap with other supports. So occupational therapists, I would work with them a lot. Sometimes they would come into my small group and help me, or I would coordinate visits. Speech, we worked a lot with to help with communication goals. So it's a really cool way to be involved in the student's whole education. And that brings me to one of my favorite parts was just being a part of the whole school. And resource, I got to work with all grade levels, go into different classrooms, work with all of the different students. And it was a really cool way to just see how education is such a broad ideal and how many moving parts it is. And the relationships were, of course, my favorite part. For a lot of my students, they were struggling in school. And my classroom was the 30 minutes each day where they could come in and make mistakes and not feel judged, or they could be met exactly where they were at and not feel completely lost and like they had no idea what was going on. So I loved that I got to be a safe space for students to come in and fail and realize that it was okay to mess up and that we were going to keep trying again and just wait until they got it. We got to move at their own pace, which is something that they don't get in the general education setting. And what I also loved about it was a really fast-paced job. The schedule changes a lot, which can be a bit of a pain, but you're constantly doing new things and switching. I would be teaching kindergarten letter recognition one minute and then fourth grade reading comprehension the next. So it was a really cool way to just keep the day going by quickly and get to do a lot of different things all in one job, which I loved. So some recommendations, if you are interested in resource and inclusion, which if you're interested in working with students who have learning disabilities or dyslexia, this is a fantastic setting for you to get to do that. I would say, first of all, be flexible. You, like I said, have to do a lot of different things, but you get to problem solve a ton, which is amazing. And also know all of your content areas. I know in special education, we like to say that we're the accommodations experts and gen ed is the content experts, but with resource and inclusion, you get to be both, which for me was perfect because I love getting to do the teaching of content while also doing what I'm passionate of, which is working with special education students. So it's a fantastic way where you get to do both, but you definitely need to be familiar with the TEKS for gen ed as well, and be familiar with accommodations. You get to be an advocate for your students, like I said, and knowing what accommodations will be helpful for them is a really good part of the job. So overall, resource and inclusion is a fantastic way to work with students in small group settings or in the gen ed setting, and it's an awesome, fast-paced way to build relationships and see incredible growth with students while they're in a really lower restrictive environment. So I hope you are interested, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks and gig 'em!